Life, like the conversation, keeps changing. Get the first ever needs-matched life insurance that changes as your life changes.
Hello, welcome to another lockdown edition of the Dan Nicholl Show with Bright Rock. We're still stuck inside, a little less than we were last week. We can now walk 10 yards outside our house, and that's about it. But we're hoping we're nudging a little closer to freedom. And in the meantime, we stay entertained as we travel right around the world to catch up with some more terrific guests this week. We'll be off to America a little later on this week's show and speaking to Dom Scott, the South African Olympian who's based over in the States and would have been in Tokyo a little later on this year. We also head down to Cape Town where we find an Englishman who's rather well known for his work with the guitar, Mike Rutherford from Genesis and Mike and the Mechanics. But we kick off this show, at least I thought we were going to kick off this show, by going to Ireland. But it turns out that the most famous man of all of Ireland is not actually in Ireland. Instead, he's sitting on a farm just outside of George. Hello, CJ Stunder.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great, pleasure. So not in Ireland. You escaped just in time to lock down back at home.
Yeah, we made the decision, me and my wife, to come back to Ireland to be closer to the family, just in case if something happened that we couldn't travel, and I knew that my dad is going to need some hands on the farm as well, at some stage. So, yeah, that was a big idea.
A silver lining then for you, I guess, from Corona. Yes, it's terribly sad you're not playing rugby and you're missing out on live sport, as are the rest of us, but you're getting a slightly longer vacation back in South Africa than you usually would.
Yeah, that's very true. We made a joke last week that, and the good side is that it's the longest I've been home with the family since I left for boarding school in Oakdale. So that's a good few years ago, because I'm turning 30 this year. So yeah, I miss rugby and I miss my friends and everything, my house in Ireland as well, but it's good to be around the family, and it's good to at least have some freedom to train on the farm and be busy as well. So
seeing the family and seeing the home and seeing your familiar and comforting surroundings is fantastic. What else is there about South Africa, though, that you really, really miss when you're sitting on another rainy day back in Ireland that you're now getting the chance to enjoy?
Yes, I went to the butchery this morning and I got a nice piece of biltong with yellow fat, and that's something I can't just go into my local butcher, and that's a bit of a treat every day. I don't know while it's going to go down with the S&C and the nutritionist side. But yeah, that, and I miss the farm. I miss the farm a lot. It's good to be stuck in for the last 3 weeks, really getting involved and having ideas as well and sharing with my dad and my brother who's on the farm. So that's what I miss the most. And I'm sitting here in the car. It says it's 19, but I'm actually, it's hot. It's hot here. The sun is shining.
19 is about the hottest it's ever been in Ireland, to the best of my knowledge. It's a country that has certainly become home. Yes, you might miss the biltong and some of the other South African comforts, but aside from just the rugby, it really does feel that as a family, you guys have found somewhere very special.
Yeah, no, since day one, the Irish people, they made it comfortable for us, and they looked after us for a good while, and they still do, and we've found our place there. We've been there longer together, me and my wife and the baby now, that we've ever been in South Africa, so it is home for us, and we've got a good setup there and a good family base and friend base, and it's something that it's memories like that you're never gonna recreate somewhere else, so yeah, it's a special place in our hearts.
I think all South African rugby fans would have loved to have seen CJ pulling on that Springbok jersey. It's a green jersey of a slightly different sort. And every time I see you play, there's absolutely no question about it. You can watch the way you approach the game, the way you're clearly enjoying the game, that pulling on that Ireland jersey just does mean so much to you.
Yeah, no, it is a special jersey. It's something that I really worked for, and especially in the last few years, that I try to make my place in the team and in the squad, And I always say this, that Munster and Irish rugby put a lot of time, money and coaching into me. And one way I can repay them is by showing them how much I enjoy going out on a Saturday or a Sunday, Friday, playing for them, with my friends, and just showing them how much it means to me to be in that jersey. Not being born there or not having citizenship yet, to play for them is something else. But to put on that jersey and say I'm part of that team, part of that squad. We've had some great ups, we've had some downs, but we're a special squad together.
And I know it's a squad you'll be dying to be part of as soon as possible. Do you have any sense, any idea of when rugby as we know it may continue and what your rugby calendar just for the rest of this year might look like?
Yeah, so at the moment, it looks like we are getting together end of May, just the small groups. I need to get back in Ireland at some stage in this month, so that's something I need to look into as well. But yeah, there's no really set date that rugby is going to get back on TV or as a group training. So we're all we've got a 3-week plan every week, and we work off that. And in the end of that week, they tell us there's another 3 weeks, or we're going to start training together again. So yeah, it's a week by week thing. I think that's the same thing for everyone else. They were just sitting down and waiting for a president to say something.
It'll be bittersweet when it does come to an end. You'll be sad to say goodbye. Your dad will be missing his chief farm labourer as he sends you back to Ireland. But, you'll be happy to see all your friends back there and all of your teammates. If biltong was what you couldn't wait to get back for here, what's the Irish equivalent that's waiting for you back home over there?
It's easy. You can walk into any spot and get one of the best Guinnesses in the world. So that is it. That's the equivalent.
Oh, there's clearly a great streak of the Irish that's been born in you there, CJ. Tell me about the little one. Is there a hint of an Irish accent coming through yet?
Yeah, well, she's got an Irish passport, so there's a little bit of Irish coming through for sure. I think her first words is going to be might be Irish. We don't know, because she's only 9 months now, but she's gonna go to preschool. Well, in Ireland, so I think it's gonna be an Irish baby.
Afrikaans with an Irish accent. That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's going to be. I said it's going to be the first proper Irish standard that was born. Because he's got a Irish passport, Irish birth certificate. So there's no doubt that she's not one.
And I ask in all seriousness, was there anything of not so much a language barrier, but trying to understand the guys when you first got there?
I think the language barrier came from my side, because I really started speaking English when I went over there. That's a real statement, So I got over there, I couldn't speak 2 or 3 sentences, and that's it. And then in each county in Ireland, there's a different accent, so that caught me as well. So it took me a good 6-7 years to get used to speaking back to someone in a real manner that they can understand me and we can have a real conversation.
There's still very little of the Irish accent coming through. Maybe another few years it'll get there. I don't think, though, it can ever be as bad as your brother-in-law, Rake Neertling's American Afrikaans accent after he was at college.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. He learned how to speak English in America. He's not going to say that, but I think that's where he got the accent. When he's on the phone, he's speaking English. To me, sometimes I feel intimidated. I am always intimidated when he speaks to me, but when he does it in an American accent, I feel I'm in trouble.
Oh dear. CJ, it's been great catching up with you. It's lovely that you've been able to spend some time in South Africa. We watch you proudly when you wear that Irish jersey, and we look forward to having you back here again soon. And hopefully the Dan Nicholl Show will get over to Ireland in the next little while, and we'll be able to see what life is like over in Munster.
Right, looking forward to sharing Guinness with you at some stage. Thanks for having me.
Great pleasure. CJ Stander, CJ O'Stander, as Brian O'Driscoll calls him, a great South African export to Ireland. And who knows, one of the big obstacles to South Africa going back-to-back Rugby World Cups in 3 years' time. Well, right around the world, everybody is being affected by the coronavirus. We're in lockdown, we're in quarantine, we're changing the way we live, and that even applies to rock stars. Instead of their usual life of swanning about, champagne and jets and lingerie medals are also restricted to life in lockdown, and that includes someone you'll know from Genesis and from Mike and the Mechanics. Hello, Mike Rutherford.
Good day. How are you?
I'm a little cabin feverish, but otherwise I think I'm all right. I'm also though slightly surprised because I would have imagined that a rock star such as yourself would be sitting on a palace in the Bahamas somewhere or a chateau in the south of France. Instead, we find you somewhere very different and a little closer to home.
I am not far away. I'm in Bantry Bay, Cape Town. It's a beautiful day. We came down early March for a couple of weeks after a charity show at the O2, and we're still here.
It's not somewhere you are unfamiliar with because South Africa has become pretty much a second home for you, Mike, hasn't it?
It has. I have a big history. I didn't come from '93 on a Mechanics promotional tour. The year before the big change, everyone very worried and concerned. Came back in '95 for some concerts. Everyone's smiling. And I bought some land in Bantry Bay, not quite with any plans. And we built a house. We love it here. But my grandmother is, I suppose, an early Dutch settler. She grew up at the Alphen Hotel. It was a family home in Constantia. And they go way back. Great-grandmother married Dirk Stellenbosch. I've seen the family tree. So there's a lot of history here.
And it's clearly a country you've got a great love for, a great passion for. Aside from that family link, what is it about South Africa that's quite so special for you, Mike?
Well, we kind of came here, first of all, after my first visit on the mechanics shows, doing safaris, flew down distance safaris, and which we and the children loved. They were growing up then, younger, and then kind of came down for a couple of days. It's the variety of things to do down here, the people, the wonderful sky, the light. I mean, it's just, you can't stop it. There's too much good to say about it.
So there are probably worse places.
That's an aeroplane going over. That's different.
It's a country that's in a very interesting space, but there are certainly worse places you could be stuck at the moment. And your home base back in England is going through some challenging times. But you will want to be getting on the road at some point because musically, this is quite an important year for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story because I left Cape Town in the middle of January and flew straight to New York, where I rehearsed with Tony Banks and Phil Collins and the other couple of guys in Genesis to see if we could still play any good music. We decided we could, and we had a choice of two things. It's interesting here. Either do a summer tour in America or wait till November and start in the UK, which we chose. So with a bit of luck, that might still work. I don't quite know yet, but it's possible we might start mid-November in the UK. And
that's a tour that's got a reasonable amount of popularity. I think it took 15 minutes for your first 10 shows to sell out.
It was amazing. I mean, you never quite know how the sort of confident promoters are. I never quite know. We haven't toured for about 14 years, but there's a great sort of fan base around the world. And I think, people now, something special. All our contemporaries, the Eagles, the Stones, the Who, they tour every year. We haven't toured England, done 2 shows in the last 25 years. So it's got a special occasion about it.
You said you felt the music was up to scratch. I don't think anybody would have expected otherwise. What was the camaraderie like? What was it like just getting the band back together?
It was great, actually. I mean, it was good. And a real extra bonus, really, is that because on the record, Phil would drum and sing, and on stage for the last 45 years or 40 years, we had a session drummer, Chester Thompson, an American jazz drummer. He's sort of retired now, and so in his place is Phil's son, Nicholas, who is just become 19, and the most amazing drummer. He was the most well-rehearsed, without doubt, of all of us. And having a family member, in the band as well, it's just quite special.
That we hope will kick off. Is there any chance that there might be a diversion a little further south and we'd see Genesis popping into South Africa at some point?
My wife, Angie, is insisting that we end up coming down. We can see the stadium from our house here in Bantry Bay, virtually. We come and play in Cape Town and Joburg and do something. I'd like to. I think the way to do it, actually, is probably at the end of a tour. Either start here or finish here. Would make sense, actually.
I think it would be a fantastic idea. I can see that selling out even faster than the ones in London would be Terrific to have you down. And you've been getting in a little bit of practice, a little bit of rehearsal. I know you're next door to Element House, and I've heard from the guys at Element House that every evening there's some pretty cool guitar music drifting across the area.
Well, normally about 8 in the evening, we'd be eating out on the terrace, my wife and I, and the clapping would start, for all the frontline workers and the medical people down here. And so we started clapping, and I thought, well, why don't I do something? I've got a guitar upstairs, and I've got a little amp. So I started playing at 8 o'clock, and it's been quite fun. I mean, I'm now learning old riffs like Black Sabbath songs and Deep Purple and old Genesis songs, and it's great fun. I'm going to do it every other day now. I'm going to do it on even numbers. That's my new thing. Every other day, even numbers.
And can people send in requests?
No, I have enough trouble learning songs I should know, let alone other ones. But no, it's a nice fun thing to do, actually.
It is indeed. And it's not the only music you're going to be playing, because you've been very generous with your time. Granted, we have a little more of it than usual, but it's still very kind of you. We had last week the first Element House session last Thursday, and going out tomorrow on Thursday, I'll be joining up with you and with Peter Tempelhoff, and we'll be looking to raise some money in partnership with Element House.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, because in fact, they were next door, and we sort of talked over the fence. No, so I know we bought some food for the kitchen and stuff. It's a nice concept to what they're doing.
Well, they are doing some terrific work, and it's wonderful to be able to support them. So you can join myself and Mike and Peter Tempelhoff and the Element House team tomorrow. That'll be on the Element House, the Fane Restaurant, and the Dan Nicholl Show Facebook pages. So we'll be helping to raise some money for some schools that Element House is feeding out in the Khalicha area, and easing just a little what is a very, very challenging situation for us all at the moment. Mike, any idea of what the plans are from here, and as much as we know what we're allowed to do?
No, I know I can cycle tomorrow morning from 6 till 9, which is, I love cycling down here, which is a wonderful thing to do. So I'll be out on my bike. Yeah, I mean, I know, in fact, I mean, I'm reading the reports, that the reaction to the way this government has reacted very strongly and very hard, around the world has been taken very seriously, and they've respected it. They've done a great lockdown here. I know it's tough for everybody, but they've gone in hard and very brave, and I think in a way that's the right thing to do.
We're all making the best of it as we can, and we hope that not only do we have better times ahead in the not too distant future, but as well as that concert we'll see online tomorrow, that we will see promoters hopefully a little later this year announcing that Genesis, maybe 2021, the Grand Tour wraps up at the Cape Town Stadium. I think I'll be front of that queue for some tickets, Mike.
All right, okay.
So there we go. Mike Rutherford from Genesis. Mike and the Mechanics, an honorary Cape Townian with some great South African history, locked up in Cape Town, but by the looks of things, he's just surviving. So far this week, we've had a sports star in the form of CJ Stunder. We've had a rock star in the form of Mike Rutherford from Genesis and Mike and the Mechanics. Now we have someone who's both a rock star and a star athlete. She's been on the show before. She's probably, and with apologies to Trevor Noah and Trevor Immelman, South Africa's greatest ever export to America. Hello, Dom Scott.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're a long way away, and you feel even further away than usual because the world just now seems so distanced from itself. How is life in lockdown in Boulder, Colorado?
Yeah, it does feel like we're more removed than ever right now, but life hasn't been too difficult in Boulder, Colorado. We've still been able to get outside and stretch our legs. So training for me hasn't been compromised too much. I haven't been able to train with my teammates during the past 5-6 weeks, which isn't ideal, but obviously that's not too bad considering everything that's going on in the world. So still just clicking away in training, trying to maintain fitness, and trying to stay positive during all the uncertainties.
Although you're based in America, you're still very proudly South African. And sometimes when you're not concentrating, you let that made-up American accent slip and we hear the South African one come back. We watch you all over the world with that South African flag proudly on your shirt, running for South Africa. And you would have been running in all likelihood in Tokyo a little later on this year. How has that changed, Dom Scott? How much of an impact did that have on you as an athlete when that news came through that Tokyo wasn't happening this year?
Yeah, I had qualified already. I'd run the standard for the 5,000 meters, and I was really excited to represent South Africa. I needed to come home and run at the trials, which were planned for late April. And then, hopefully South Africa was going to put me on the team and I was going to be on my way to Tokyo. I was definitely bummed with the news of the postponement. Like, I'm not going to lie, it's a dream and a goal that athletes strive for every 4 years. So to hear that it was getting delayed by 12 months was definitely a bummer. But, our dreams were just put on pause or delayed. They weren't canceled. So very grateful that the Olympics weren't canceled. But there has now been this uncertainty around, like, what now? What do we do right now in the next 12 months to prepare ourselves for Tokyo? Because we don't know when we'll be able to have track meets again, when we'll be able to stand on the start line and compete. Whether, we don't even know when tracks will be open for us to train on. So just a lot of unknowns. Definitely disappointed when the news was released that the Olympics had been postponed, but also glad that they weren't cancelled altogether.
What is more challenging for you as an athlete? Recalibrating the physical side of it, the training, the planning, working out how you build up to such a big event, or the mental side of getting your head around suddenly it's all change?
I leave the physical side of things to my coach. I let him do all the planning around that. So for me, it's the mental side. Just be on such a high going into 2020, knowing that it's such an important year, trying to make sure everything is in order. My husband and I just moved out to Boulder, Colorado, so that I could be at altitude full time. So making a lot of big life decisions, in preparation for Tokyo, and then to have the news drop that it's going to be delayed by 12 months. And definitely for me, it's more the mental side of being able to recognize what's going on and just try and focus our energy on things that we can control rather than the things that we have no control of.
Your family are all still back in South Africa now, and I know you're enormously close to them. It makes this kind of separation all the tougher. What are you really missing about home other than just the family, though? What really comes to mind about your South African roots at a time like this?
Yeah, really missing South Africa, missing home, missing my friends and family. I was meant to come home last month for the trials, and I was going to spend some extra time in Cape Town with my family. So I was definitely disappointed that I couldn't travel last month. The things that I always miss is just hearing the South African accent. That's number one for me. It just makes me feel at home hearing the South African accent. Having a good braai is probably number two. My parents have a braai at least once a week, and they always FaceTime me while they're doing so. So that's probably the second thing I miss. Number three would be the wine. Really miss South African wine. A good bottle of wine from Stellenbosch, and the prices of the wine too.
A lot of people are really struggling at the moment to get their heads around all manner of elements that have come out of this. But a big one is staying fit and staying healthy. You are a role model for doing exactly that at the moment. A couple of quick words of guidance and advice and support from Dom Scott, Olympic athlete, for those of us who might not be Olympian, but are still doing our best to try and stay fit and healthy.
Yeah, for sure. This is a hard time. I guess top pick would just be to try and maintain a routine during this hard time. I know there's nothing normal about staying in one's home all day, but if you try and structure your day a little bit, structuring it with what time you're going to be eating your meals, what time you can get in a little workout, making sure you're eating healthily, drinking water to hydrate, little things like that will really go a long way and help your mood and just make you feel a little bit more normal during this unnormal time. And for your workouts, I would just say that they don't have to be anything long. If you're just moving your body for 20 to 30 minutes a day, you're going to feel so much better about yourself.
There we go. And if you need some visual inspiration, Dom Scott on Instagram, just make sure you have a strong drink beside you if you're not used exercising. Del, we miss you here in South Africa. We miss watching you run and celebrate South Africa around the world. But the road to Japan 2021 has begun, and I know you're on that track. And it'll be a year delayed, but I know you'll still be over in Tokyo next year and representing us proudly.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, Dan. It was great to chat with you.
So there we go. A fantastic South African export of sorts based over in Colorado, but still very much South African at heart. And wrapping up this week's lockdown episode of the Dan Nicholl Show, a huge thank you to Dom. A huge thank you to Mike Rutherford. Don't miss his concert tomorrow night that I'll be co-hosting. And we're joined by the team from Element House. And a big thank you to CJ Stunder in South Africa now, but shortly headed back to Dublin. That's the lockdown edition with Bright Rock for this week. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Life, like the conversation, keeps changing. Get the first ever needs-matched life insurance that changes as your life changes.